Hey guys, Steve Welch here. A few of you guys have asked me to do a market update and to kind of tell you where the market's going, and specifically on Toyotas, and to kind of give you an idea of how long it would take you to get a new version of whatever you're looking for. So first off, you need to realize that not every Toyota is built in the same factory, and a lot of them have different parts. So different ones can come at different rates. And then you also have different amounts of people looking for different vehicles. So how long will it take you to get one? What do you need to do? And then what are we seeing in the market? I'm going to show you all that right now and talk to you about that all right now. So if you're looking for something like a RAV4, all right, so we still have a pretty long list for people waiting for RAV4s. And I'm gonna kind of come back here real quick, but the other thing is hybrids. Anything hybrid right now, and I know gas prices are up there, but anything that's hybrid right now is in very short supply. So from what I understand, it has to do with some of the metals that go into the batteries and some of the things like that are severely restricting how many hybrids can be built by Toyota. So that's from what I understand. I have that from a good authority, and I believe them. But that seems to be what's slowing us down. I figured it would be something that was hybrid specific that's slowing down the hybrids. But kind of back to what I was talking about. So RAV4s, if you're looking for a hybrid RAV4, at least right now, and when I tell you these wait times, if you know, there could be things that happen with the economy and obviously things like that will adjust this. I'm just talking about as of right now, based off of what current lists look like, what you can expect to wait, right? So if you want a RAV4 hybrid, you're probably going to wait somewhere between about 8 months and a year. I know that sounds a lot, but that's how the hybrids are. Now, if you're looking for a non-hybrid, you can probably get a non-hybrid between about 3 and 6 months. Now, what makes it the longer, what makes it the shorter, and this is for everything that I'll give you kind of going forward here. If you say I have to have a black one with tan interior, and I only want an XLE, and I only want a sunroof, and it has to have the weather package, and you start saying all these, it has to have, figure the longer time. If you say I'll take any color, as long as it's, you know, an XLE, then I'm good with it. If it's a, you know, if it has sunroof, doesn't, it's fine. If it's, and you start just really opening yourself up to a lot of different options, then you'll get one quicker. You know, the any color, inside and out, you're gonna get that one quicker. The any trim level, which is a harder one for somebody to say, because usually you want a couple things, you know, maybe you want a seat heater, you know, or something like that. But if you want a couple things, keep in mind too, you can also modify some vehicles. So if you wanted to add leather or add a heated seat, there are things that you can add to cars. So remember that. All right, so yeah, so that kind of covers, you know, a little bit of the RAV4, and this is at least for, you know, what we're seeing around here. Now keep in mind, if you're willing to pay these markups that a lot of dealerships are still trying to do, they're having some vehicles that will land and without somebody willing to spend $5,000 over MSRP, or $10,000 or $20,000 over MSRP, depending on the vehicle. So chances are, if you find one that's on the ground, it may have a market adjustment on it. So just watch for that, and make sure that if you're reaching out to a dealer and they're going, yeah, we got it here, come on in, ask them if there is a market adjustment on that vehicle. You might save some time by not going up there if there is. So that being said, so now what else? So let's say something like a Forerunner, right? Forerunners are all built in Japan, so they all come from over there. So you got to get it across the ocean, you got to get it in through the port, and then on a rail, and then it shows up from a rail. I mean, just travel time on a Forerunner is about 2 months. Sometimes less, but we'll call it about 2 months. So realistically speaking, there's very little chance that you'll have a Forerunner in less than about 8 months to a year. And that's based off of current, like I said, with the listing and what people are looking for. So now let's go to the Tacoma, right? And here's something that's interesting. All right, so Toyota just announced the new Tacoma, and there are a lot of people that are like, that thing's amazing, I am waiting on that vehicle. So you could have two things happen here. All right, so Toyota's changing the engine to an engine that's never been in the Tacoma. They're adding an iForce Max, kind of like what's in my Tundra here. So they're also adding a Trailhawk. They're adding a couple other additions. They're doing a few things, and that is going to do one of two things. All right, there are going to be people that are currently on the list for a Tacoma, or they're currently waiting for one, and we'll call them, or a different dealership will call them and say, hey, your Tacoma is inbound, it's going to be here in 2 weeks. And that person's going to say, I'd rather wait for the 24. And that's possible, right? So if they say I'd rather wait for the 24, all of a sudden you could have a bunch of Tacomas that could come available where they weren't before. You also have the back end of that. You could have people saying, and they did this with the Highlander, that, oh, I want the 6-cylinder, I don't want the 4-cylinder, so I need to get one now. And then all of a sudden everybody's clamoring to get one before the change. There are both of those mindsets that are going to happen. It just matters which one is more prevalent. So if there are more people after the 6-cylinders, then you're probably not going to get one until the 4-cylinders come out. If there ends up being more people after the 4-cylinders and the new design, and they definitely look sweet. But if there's more people that are after the new design, then you could have a bunch of the current designs come out without a name on them. So how long are you going to wait for a Tacoma? I don't know. That part's a hard one to say, because you don't know where that part of the market's going to go. But I probably will have a little bit of a feel on that here in the next couple of months. I call it probably about 2 months. I'll be able to tell you a little bit better on that. But so Corollas, you're probably going to do somewhere around, if I had to guess, a 3 to 6 month wait on a Corolla. Hybrids, again, a little bit longer. That's just where they're at. Corolla Crosses, they don't seem to be building a bunch of Corolla Crosses. So that part is I'd have to give you a 6 month time on that probably. And keep in mind, these are just kind of estimates based off of what I've seen. So and like I said, just kind of giving you an idea of where you'd end up being, trying to go through all of the cars, and I'm doing these off the top of my head, so I shouldn't miss too many of them here. But Corolla hatchback, that's like the new hot hatch. Those are, dealerships are getting 2 or 3. That it's just that one is one of those that it's, if you find one, you're very lucky. So I don't really have a good time frame on that, just because I don't know how many they're building. If you're asking for like a circuit edition, with that, the list is probably full for those. Just being quite honest, if you're hunting for a circuit, you're going to be either very lucky to find one that was backed out on, or you're going to pay just a substantial amount over a sticker, because that's the only reason that a dealer will have it. So but that's that. So let's go to let's do a Camry. All right, so Camrys are actually coming a little bit quicker than what they were. So I can get you into a Camry probably within about a month to 2 months. And that's, there are some that will land that will be available. And I've had that happen, and I've had people call me and same day get into a Camry. It's not common right now, but it does happen. So, there you go. Let's bring up the BZ4X while I'm thinking about it. BZ4Xs, they're not building a whole ton of them, but I have seen some on the ground, and we've had some land that didn't have a buyer on them yet. So those you can probably get with anywhere from right away to probably about 3 months. The Toyota Crown, the new Crown, it's got the Max engine in it. That's those some of those have landed without a buyer on them. I would probably give you somewhere between, and this will sound pretty big, between 0 and 6 months on a Crown. And that's, once again, just depending how particular you are on what you're wanting to get on a Crown. So so Crown, Corolla, Camry, we've gone through the RAV4, Tundra. All right, let's do Tundra. So the Tundras, they're all built in San Antonio. A lot of you know that. So we have had a couple land that didn't have names on them. Usually it's just kind of either just like a base truck sometimes that would land. Two-wheel drives have been a little bit harder to move. Not to say people don't want them. It's just, in this area, people tend to ask for 4x4. Other parts of the country, two-wheel drives, I mean, people just swoop them up real quick. So your average weight for a Tundra, I mean, that's going to give you a big, swatch again. But you're probably talking 6 months, give or take, on a Tundra, at least as of right now. And if you're looking for a hybrid, so the iForce Max Tundra, you're probably talking 8 to 12. It's just there's not a lot of them that are out there, so it's just that's kind of where we're at. So so we've gone through the Tacoma, Tundra. Let's think of some of the other cars that Toyota makes. So Highlander. All right, so there's the next one, Highlander. So the Highlander, like I said earlier in the video here, when it switched from the 6-cylinder to the 4-cylinder, people just ran after the 6. People were kind of scared of the Turbo 4. That has calmed down. People have drove that vehicle and have found out that vehicle, it actually reacts better than what the 6-cylinder did. It's got a little bit less horsepower, but it's got more torque and it's got a little better fuel economy. So people have warmed up to it. But that being said, the market for it has softened some. So realistically, I could probably get you a Highlander anywhere between 1 to 3 months. Highlander hybrids, you're still looking, 8 months better on a Highlander hybrid. So that's just kind of where we're at on those. So let's think of the other ones here. So we're obviously Avalons were discontinued. If people are asking about an Avalon, so those don't exist anymore for the new market. So the Venza would be the next one. The Venza doesn't have as big of a following as some of the other ones. So realistically, I would probably put you at about 6 to 8 months on a Venza. They're still hybrids and they're still predominantly built in Japan. So I'd probably put you on a 6 to 12 month, on a 6 to 8 month on a Venza. So just kind of that's probably where that one is. So and I do want to mention too, so part of the reason you can get the Highlanders and the Camrys a little bit quicker, the Highlanders are built in Indiana, the Camrys are built in Georgetown, so along with one of the lines of the RAV4s, but that's built in Georgetown. So those are like I said, those are built really close, so those do tend to help. So so now let's talk about the Sienna. The Toyota Sienna has probably been the most sought after Toyota for about the last 2 years. People have been wanting those and not able to get them. They are all hybrid. They are built in Indiana, so they're not built far away, but they're just not. Toyota doesn't seem to be prioritizing the Sienna as a build. Based off of how many people are currently on the list, you're probably looking at, and brace yourself for this, at a 2-year wait to get a Sienna. So if you want a Sienna, if you got really lucky, maybe a year. And if you just said, I will take anything that comes available, any trim level, any color, any interior, any whatever, and you do something like that, it's possible that you could get a Sienna within a year. It's probably going to be closer to 2, just letting you know. So if you get very particular, it will be a 2-year wait on a Sienna if you're very particular. So that's where that is. What about Sequoia? All right, if you want a new Sequoia, you're running into things that are very the same as the Tundra, things like that. But keep in mind, all the Sequoias are hybrids. They're all built in San Antonio, so that helps. But they're all hybrids, and realistically, you will see. I mean, we're one of the largest dealerships around, and we'll see 2 to 3 Sequoias land in a month. There's just not a lot of them landing. Now, here's the thing: the list isn't quite as long for a Sequoia. You've got to want that truck. That is a very big truck, big SUV, of course. So the list isn't quite as long as for something like a Sienna, of course. But you're probably, if best case scenario, looking at 6 months for a Sequoia, if you're open, if you're pretty open on what you want. If you drum it down to something very, very specific, you could be talking closer to a year, just based, like I said, off of current production levels and where things are currently. Okay, so what about something like a Supra? Supras are few and far between on when those come in. I mean, dealership probably see 1, 2 a month maybe that actually land. You're probably, I mean, there's not as big of a list for those, but you're probably still looking at 6 months on a Supra. So now in the same breath, we'll talk about what about a Toyota 86. Obviously, Toyota 86 is built in a collaboration with Subaru. Seen a few of those coming in. Those are a little bit few and far between as well, depending on how particular you are on those. You can probably have one of those in 6 months. Now the Prius was all new, redesigned, all built in Japan. They are sleek, beautiful cars. Those things are pretty amazing. So if you want a Prius, how long are you waiting? I mean, they're also hybrids. I mean, I would say that you could probably, if you're open to about anything, you could probably, and I say probably, have a Prius in somewhere around 3 months, give or take. If you're very, very specific in particular, I'd call it 6 to 8. All these, like I said, these are subject to change, just kind of what I'm seeing, what I feel in the market, and how I think things are going, of course, when it comes to things along those lines. So, well, I think, like I said, I was going off the top of my head. I think I've got everything that Toyota has. If I forgot one, I apologize. I'll pin it in the comments if you guys point it out to me and give you an idea on that. But just trying to give you an idea on how I think the wait times would be before you get a specific Toyota. Now, if Toyota all of a sudden decides that they're gonna up their production, and if they get their the parts issues or the supply issues that they're still working through, if they get those things figured out, then that will definitely be a big help. A lot of cars that we've delivered lately, they have one key with a promise for a second, just because of the chip shortage that's still going on. There's not a whole lot we can do about that. We're kind of at Toyota's behest with that, and when they come available, Toyota will send out a notice to those customers that have had those, and that's just what you're going to see. So on those, but like I said, I think I've got all of them. But Toyota is, I know that like GM and Dodge and all those, they have cars on the ground. Will Toyota have cars on the ground soon? I mean, maybe in a few months. But like I said, based off of current list, and as we go through the list and we get, some people off the list, some people that have, decided not to buy, we find some people that just, went and bought a used car, just because they were tired of waiting on a new one. As you get those people that kind of fall off the list, those numbers could change. But I kind of peek at the list every day and kind of see how the length of it is, and then you kind of take a look and you go, all right, well, yeah, there's, say there's like 80 people on the list for a Prius. You go, wow, there's 80 people in front of me. Well, not really, because if you actually, you go, all right, well, let me just look at an LE, and there might be like 6 people ahead of you for an LE. Well, if you want an LE, there's not 80 people, there's 6. And I don't know if that's the exact numbers, but it's something like that. So you go, all right, well, what do you have in a Prius? You got an all-wheel drive, a two-wheel drive, you got an LE, XLE, you got a limited, you've got several different trim levels. So if you have, let's just say 8, everything is somewhere around there. If you have 8 trim levels in something like a Prius and you got 80 people on the list, then realistically you got 10 people that are ahead of everybody. You know, or if you have 10, then obviously you've got 8 people that are ahead of everybody for, you know, for if you were to try to get on the list now, right? So just realize that the lists are very long. The list for the Siennas, kind of giving you that. The Sienna list, there are a lot of people on the Sienna list that say open. Basically meaning, whatever you get, I'll take. Don't care the color, don't care the interior, don't care the trim level. If you get it, I'll take it. And part of the reason for that is that the market adjustments on some of these cars, they have the LEs, so the base level, they have them costing as much as a Platinum. And it's like, it's just kind of craziness, right? And the used cars, since you can't get the new versions of it, the used prices on the Sienna vans, they're high, right? So, and the used prices on most of these cars, they're high because you can't get them new. Toyota didn't build a lot of Camrys for 20 and 21. So if you're looking for a 2-year-old used one, not out there. Prices are high. Those things are up. At some point they'll come down, but I mean, there are some market pressures that are just keeping them extremely high right now. And you know, that's why a lot of people are like, well, I'd rather have a new one for the same price as a used one. The problem is you still can't get that new one from Toyota. At least not today. You can't go to the dealership today and get a new one. The other thing you'll run into is there are some people who have like leased cars, right? And if you've leased your car, the best used car you can probably buy is your leased car. And that's just something to consider too, because realistically speaking, to buy that same car on the used market, you're going to spend more than what you'd buy or spend to buy out your lease. So a lot of those people that would normally turned in those leases and got their next new car, they're buying those out. And at least until the market gives them a new car. And then what will probably happen is you'll probably actually have it to where the new cars become more prevalent. And then you'll have like a 4-year-old car that would have been turned in as a 3-year-old lease. Then now it's a 4-year-old car that's traded in, or a 5-year-old car that's traded in. You're going to have things like that. So we're going to go through a lull here where there's just not going to be a lot of used cars. There's not. So that little tidbit there at the end, I know it's a little bit off the subject of the wait times for Toyotas, but I did want to give you guys those that little bit of information there. So once again, Steve Welch here, trying to give you a market update on how long you'll wait to get your next Toyota if you plan to do it on a new one. So hope you guys like it. Definitely like, subscribe, appreciate you guys, and I'll come to you with more as I know. So Steve Welch, you guys have a great day. Bye.